Hello, everyone. This is another Freedom to Feel conversation, and my guest today is Cathleen Beerkens. She's the founder of a wellness revolution, health educator, integrative health and wellness coach, and a healing facilitator. She's also the author of Your Creator Matrix: How to Use Optimal Wellness and Quantum Healing to Master Your Story and Create Your Reality. So this is my brief introduction to Kathleen, but the question that I love asking, as everyone knows, and I already talked to Kathleen before off record, how would you describe yourself as of this very moment, Kathleen? Who are you?
That's such a great question. Well, I'm not going to, in the past, I would have said everything I did, that was who I was. But I'm just going to say that I am who I am. I am. And I am happy a lot, often now in my life, because I've learned how to do that. Joyful, and I feel very free in my life too. And I feel very like I understand that I create my reality now on a big level. And therefore, who am I? I am a creator.
Yes. Yeah. What's not to love about that? It feels very empowering, doesn't it? In a way, to the human being, to be not in control. That's not really the word. It came to mind right now. I usually don't use the word control, but being able to guide its own energy to what it wants to achieve in a sense of calling and purpose or mission. With that in mind, how did you come to this understanding of who you are and doing the work you're doing these days, and also writing your book, Your Creator Matrix? Everything's connected, of course, but what was the moment in time where you knew that was your path?
Well, I have had a lot, we all have experiences, as you said, and we go through our life and one thing leads to another, right?
Yeah.
So I always followed my inner knowingness. We were talking about knowingness.
Yeah.
And even when I was a young girl, I talk about that in the book. We were invited to Walter Reed Hospital. I went over and I was like 14 and I went on the ward there and I just was struck like by lightning. I'm going to work in a hospital. I knew it. And so that's crazy, isn't it? And I was just so excited. I was like, oh, well, that's going to be what I'm going to do. But I think that was how I always was, and I have always been, following my passion or my excitement, what I feel excited about. And so when it was young, I was a nurse. I took care of people. I wanted to help people heal from the beginning, and I wanted to help them heal on all levels. But when you're in the hospital and you're a nurse, and I worked on very serious wards with very sick people and very intense situations, emergencies and things like that. And you don't have time, with the patient. So you could never fall through. So once I was done with that, I had 3 kids, I started to ask a lot of questions and I started researching because I was just fascinated. I was like, why do people show up to the hospital ill and they didn't know they were ill? Like that was the first one, because that's so often the case. They're so not aware how sick they are on all levels. And that shocked me. I was a young woman, imagine. And some of them were really young. So I had to realize very young, we aren't our bodies. The body is just a physical sort of car we borrow for an experience, for a short period, to have stories, to learn and experience things. And so as I was doing my research and I came to understand all levels of that health and wellness and actually happiness and being who we truly are is a little more complicated than I originally realized. I started to, I started to make a lot of connections. And I think it's all about connections. Everything. All intelligence is connected, and health is connected, and disease is disconnection, and not understanding is disconnected. So I started realizing that disconnection and connection were a vital part of the story. And so over time, things started showing up to prove that to me, on all levels, body, mind, and I write about it all in the book, and my stories and how I found these things out, because I think people need to understand that I'm just human like we all are. And I was also awakening, because we're all awakening right now, which is like so exciting. And
Yes.
so that's literally it. And 5 years ago, I had some experiences I talk about in the book, and I started writing this course. And it it was for all these. I wanted to make a difference in mainstream medicine. I wanted to help them change and adapt to a more holistic understanding. And so now I train health and wellness coaches at a very high level all over the world, and already more than 500 in many that have entered mainstream medicine. So a lot of them. So that's interesting, isn't it?
Wow, that's very interesting. And I know you talk about, yeah, the holistic vision. I love the way you say that too. Holistic vision, right? It's a combination of science and spirituality, isn't it, Kathleen? Quantum physics, genetics, glycobiology. I don't know what that is. I wanted to ask you. And then nutrigenetics. I heard I interviewed somebody about that recently, but I would love to hear more about that. Neuroscience. So it goes back to holism, that holistic approach to life itself. And I love the way you talk about connection, disconnection. At some point, it's really the dance of life, and then we don't really the stream, the flow of what is. That's not really easy to pin down what is disconnected. It feels more like a dance. It really does. It's almost like moving, and it feels different when we are witnessing movement. But I
Yes.
don't know if we ever get disconnected from source. That's something that it feels to me that we're always connected.
Yeah, it's just an illusion. It's
Right.
an illusion that because we have a physical body that's separate, that we're separated, but we're never separated. The difference is when we're not aware that we're connected, we can't use it.
Yeah.
We're not as effective. That's what it is.
Yeah. You do have a chapter 4, right, Kathleen? The illusion of separation and disconnection. You address that. But let me go back to, because I have so many notes here. I usually try to be very, let's say, in the moment and kind of spontaneous, but I have to be careful because that will be all over the place. I have to create
That's
notes in
okay.
order because I'm not so linear. So I'll follow some of the guided questions. Talk to me specifically about the creator matrix, the meaning of that, being your creator matrix. Is that what you teach at A Wellness Revolution to your
Yeah,
coaches?
yeah, definitely. And also, help people heal. I don't like to call myself a healer because I don't believe in that anymore. I believe people will heal themselves, and I want to give
Mm.
them their own power. And so I am a healing facilitator. But I've done that for many years, so I understand how the complexity of it. But I would say that your creator matrix, I called it your because I want everyone to know that it's theirs. And my sister and I came together for
Yeah.
humanity. She's an artist, and I'm a writer and a researcher, and helping people heal. And so she did the illustrations because I felt like it's about frequency, and healing is about frequency. And her artwork is so beautiful. And so each chapter, we decided to make a book throughout each of her pieces to symbolize your creator matrix. So that is so cool, right? We all have our book that we are in charge of what happens. And so some of her art pieces are in the book, or some are on the book, and it's kind of fun. It's all magic realism, but it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And what
Yeah.
it is that I feel that your creator matrix is helping us to take responsibility for all aspects, because I've met people over the years, and I know we have a tendency, a lot of us, to the physical, or many of us to the spiritual, or to the mental. But the integration must happen now. So we are not one. So like we have a mental institution. Why? That the mental is only mental? No, it's also physical and it's also spiritual. Why do we have, you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So we need to bring all these dimensions together and take responsibility for them ourselves, realizing we influence them with all our thoughts and decisions and emotions. And we, and only we, can really make an impact on the whole. So that's where we're going, but it's a choice, right? And there's no judgment.
And that might be the closest, let's say, description of love, right, Kathleen? Not judging ourselves, not judging others.
Totally.
It really does. It feels that way. I used to think freedom, love, they were kind of one and the same. Now, this idea, the concept of judgment is kind of coming into not judging. And going back to holism, living this, applying the holistic vision perspective in our, wow, in all kinds of care. And I'm wondering, do you have a vision for that in the sense of when would that happen? Systems, their structures, they're not easy.
Okay, this is such a good question, Valerie.
Yeah.
So we are in the middle of the demolition of the old structures. They really started, the awakening started, like I would say, if you look at human evolution and where we've come from, and NASA, I talk about it in the book, talks about the 26,000 year cycle of the equinox, the precession of the equinox. But what it is that we have gone through a period on Earth where we were at the most dark, dense that you can be in this universe. And so imagine that it was so dark that you couldn't even live more than 30 years because it was so hard to be here because of how dark it was. So now started 2,000 years ago or so, but in the 60s, it really started coming, this new time. And we are going now, as of 2000, the year 2000, when COVID came, into a photonic belt. So if you saw Earth going through the universe, you would see it entering this huge body of light suddenly. So it's like we just turned the lights on. Now, that's uncomfortable on all levels of our creator matrix. So physically, all of our dimensions, body, mind, spirit, mental, and all of them are going through a process called entropy right now. So we are also breaking down old structures to build new.
Yes.
That's interesting, isn't it? So not just outside of us, it's not just the government and the educational system, and it's also in us.
Yeah. Right.
That's so wild.
That's the key point, isn't it? Everything is here. When conflict ends here, ignorance, in the sense of not knowing oneself, ends here, then it ends out there too, because we don't see. Like it doesn't. No. It's not reflected back anyway.
No, because our inner world is reflected in our outer world. So as a creator, we are creating, but we were not aware that we were creating from our inner world. So now we're waking up to that.
Yeah. I have heard that question before, like what's happening now with the wars and people still killing one another and horrible things are happening. It's really not easy to kind of see that and believe even that we have something to do with it, because some of us are really, I have to say, like in my case, is justice. I get worked up when I see, injustice. There's something about that.
You read my beginning, right? My intro. So I have the same. So we are the same that way.
What do you suggest for those who work on war peace, for example? I have some people that I'm in contact with that I have here on the podcast that they have been working since they were very young. They're now older. They're 80. They started when they were 16. They're still frustrated, disappointed that all the work that they have done ended up this way, to see the wars between Russia and Israel and all that. So I would love to hear your insights.
Well, I can, of course, I'm not going to say I know everything about everything. However, I do know that in duality, we agreed on some level, our soul. I'm not saying this person, okay? Because the person is different than the whole soul. The whole soul's much bigger. But let's say I can only give an example of my mother, who was a political activist, and she worked for Martin Luther King and Cesar Chavez. She really worked very actively with Cesar Chavez for the rights of migrant workers who were really being treated as slaves, and it wasn't okay. So, really, for her, we have 6 children, and she couldn't even live normally with us. We were on picket lines and everything our whole life. So I understand, everyone who's worked for justice and to make the earth a more loving place. Yeah. And honestly, I think that if we can just love each soul that plays each part, we would have gotten to where we need to get, so we don't have to have these stories anymore. Because I feel like, can we totally, unconditionally love every soul who's willing to come to Earth at all? Because it's not easy. So that's what I do. I just go to my heart, and I just say, it starts with me. I'm just going to love everyone, and if I have a conflict, I'm going to forgive them and try to make peace in my own life. Yeah. And that's what I can control. And then I'm going to give, obviously, intentions every day for a more peaceful world that I can imagine could exist.
Yes. I love that. As a practice, it's one of my practices. I have heard people saying, bless everything. When you see something, justice, when you see anger, just bless it, put it in your heart, bathe it with love. I have heard in a poetic way. It makes so much sense. And I wonder why some of us are more inclined to do that, get that work done. And some are not. So we are here guiding one another. Do you see that too in your vision?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I think we have, there's some older souls, there's some newer souls, there's some souls that came in this life to play the dark, to feel it, to explore it. Others are playing other aspects of the light. We played in duality, victim, perpetrator, and savior. So maybe even all of us have played all of them. And look at all the movies out now. We didn't have movies in the past. So I think we're all experiencing them really quickly to kind of grow very fast in consciousness to say, oh, do I need to have this story? No, I think I'm done with the story. I don't need that one. So this is the evolution, this great leap in consciousness we are currently experiencing. And it is wild. It is like, it's something I think it's amazing though. I think we're lucky to be here.
So I want to mention again, I would love to understand more too, for those who come across this interview I have lots of people here who are therapists and coaches. So, I know the people that you train, most of them are therapists and they are life coaches. Let me see, practitioners, nurses, business, also related, business and lifestyle coaches as well. So what's the process of becoming one of your students?
Yeah, so what I decided to do, because I'm very interested in helping this transition on the mainstream medical system. So we also have doctors, and one time I had 7 PhDs in my cohort because they wanted to learn about the new sciences. So I thought that was amazing. Actually, that was they're all of my students. I love my mothers. I love every one of them because each of them comes for one reason: to heal themselves, to help themselves grow, and to quicken the evolutionary process, and to also, because it's all about kind of understanding that holistic healing and wellness and how to manifest our reality. That is why we're here. And so they come and with all different backgrounds, and it takes 6 months, and then they're trained as a health and wellness coach so that they are able also to deal with the physical problems, because, we have a lot of obesity, diabetes, heart disease, a lot of things that people are struggling with, autoimmune diseases. And I believe that, because I believe the matrix, our you asked me why I called it your creator matrix, because a matrix is a structure. And we're breaking down the old to build the new. And so this new structure we're going to build, we have to change all the systems. So the new kids are here and we're going to change every one of them, including the medical system. So I am excited to be a part of that process. And when the coaches graduate, they can get a very high certification in the National Board of Health and Wellness Coaching, or ICF, and they can get jobs in healthcare. So that's pretty cool.
Wow. And integrate, right? This
Yeah, well,
knowledge.
no, and
Yeah.
also even in like we have, you can get a job with a functional medicine doctor, but you can also get hired to a university and mainstream medical center.
Ah, yeah. What a beautiful vision to see everything, all the systems, right, coming together, kind of being able to recognize the interconnectedness of it all.
Yeah, Valerie,
Yeah.
just imagine that we give people insurance
Yeah.
for staying well. So we say to doctors, if you can keep your patients well, I give you insurance. If they're sick, no. But so see the shift?
Yeah. Talk to me about the cellular well-being. That's another, God, that's interesting about nutrition, how everything, again, it's connected and how it comes together once we understand how it works. So I would love to hear a little bit more, also for the audience. Of course, I read, I have some ideas, but I want to hear from you, Kathleen.
Sure. So basically, we are our cells. Our cells, every second you make 1,000,000 cells. Can you imagine how many we've made
Amazing.
here?
Yeah.
And in order to make proper cells, cells are like us. Just like we talked about structure, that our systems are changing, our cells are changing. So, because we are our cells. And so cells are multidimensional also. And cells have to be built on the physical level well. And so for at this time, so that means that they are made of certain things, and that is nutrition that we are not getting enough of at this time. And there are obviously components of that nutrition, right? Proteins, fat, nucleic acids, and glycans, which nobody knows about.
Yeah.
But those 4 pieces we must take in to build the cells properly. If we don't, then remember we talked about connection and disconnection? We become disconnected at the cell level.
Right.
And then our cells cannot communicate.
Yes, that's true. So, in a way, even if we get to that point of, let's say, spiritual understanding, felt understanding of that we are knowing, that we know what we are, that not who, but what. Even then, in order to manifest, let's say, if this is what we want, more peace and joy, we do need to take care of the body, the physical body and the mind, or bring them in alignment. And that requires food, of course, is one of them, water, food, and everything else, all the kinds of nutrition. So that really resonates, though. But I always wonder if we can somehow override all the imprints of the body mind, because we know that we're not the body mind, and they are happening in consciousness. So that's just happening, that absolute reality. So I'm wondering if by being aware that we are the absolute reality, pure, that nothing can change that. It's unchanging anyway. If that could affect the body mind in a way of that change could start happening without,
Totally.
all the external means.
That is such an amazing question, Valerie. So what I think happens, and my science has shown me with quantum physics, is that our thoughts actually influence the field, the universal field that we are all connected to at the cell level. Our whole being is connected to that field, whether we are aware of it or not. If we're aware of it, we can impact that much more effectively because we're aware of what we're thinking. We're aware we're aware of what we're allowing emotionally to happen in our bodies, mind, spirit complex. And we are then therefore more powerful because as these dimensions get integrated and high frequency, all in alignment with universal source, then we will just be at such a high frequency that actually there can be no disease at that point. So we are going there, but I think it's just a process right now where we're cleaning up a lot of our creator matrix, and we are doing it as that entropic experience that I described of breaking down all these structures right now with all the light that we see, like the photonic light, helping us to see what we have created so
Right.
we can create it differently. So you can almost say we're having all those stories around us, like we can't get away from them, but it's really quickening consciousness.
Yes, 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 yes. It feels that way. It really feels that way. It has been for me about in time, 15 years, a little bit longer. And I don't get sick often since then. So something happened there because I used to get sick often when I was really dwelling the stories of trauma and really being reactive to everything. And then that ended in a way as I became more aware of what I am. Then it's just happened. It's amazing. And I'm wondering if that happened to you too. Do you, because I don't feel it sick anymore.
No, I really have. I have been amazed at, and that's what I talk about in the book, how I healed a lot of
Yeah.
parts of myself. It's been a journey, and as I helped others heal, I also healed,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
and I must say that like it's important, like two mechanisms we have to stay healthy and happy. We have to clean all aspects of our creator matrix daily, not just the outside of our body, but
Right.
the inner part and the emotional part and the mental thoughts that are not serving us. And if we do that, then we will be at a much higher frequency and in alignment with source, right? But it isn't a judgment, by the way. I just want to say, if you're
Yeah.
listening and that's not your reality, it's okay, because we all are experiencing something and it all can be healed. I believe that. So I've seen it, but we have to believe that we can heal.
Yes.
It's just quantum physics is showing us that actually what we focus on expands. So what the problem is in our subconscious, there are a lot of programs for illness and disease, and they've been brought in through the ancestors and a
Yeah.
lot of trauma. So we need to clear up our subconscious limiting belief patterns around health and wellness also. We have to truly believe, like even our words, we have to watch. Like I listen to some of my health
Mm-hmm.
coaches, and they'll say, I have this in my family, or I'm this, or I won't say it, but like diabetic, or I'm this. When you own that, then you know what I think it's better is saying, I'm having an experience with
Mm-hmm.
sugar problems. And
That's it.
I'm focusing on what I want, which is a healthy mind, body, spirit, and I feel it and I see it, and the more you feel it, the more you create it.
Yes. Yeah. So in the book, you talk about the definition of compassion. You said, at this new time, the definition of compassion is changing from feeling pity and concern, sympathy and empathy, and needing to interfere with other people's stories into allowing other people their creatorship in their stories and only offering help when we are asked to do so. I highlighted that because it was one of my biggest habits and still is in a way trying to help people, my husband especially,
Yeah, I understand.
it doesn't need
I have a
help and I'm
husband too.
so yeah, talk to me for a moment about how beautiful. I mean, I had to hear this. That was a message for me anyway too.
It's a very important message for a lot of people and maybe a lot of
Yeah.
women, but it is the thing that we are always taught, like you have to help people, you have to care for them, you have to intervene. And remember that triangle, like we played roles,
Yeah.
right? So
Right.
we always love the savior and the victim in a story, and we're kind of not loving the perpetrator. I always feel my heart goes out to the perpetrators who played those roles, because
Yes.
they are the
Yeah.
hard roles. But because, of course, we could give the empathy very easily to the victim and we could save them, right? That was interesting. So we have to catch ourselves when we play. We are not our stories, we are creating stories, and we have to realize that. And we have to
Yeah.
step above the story, and if we really step above the story, then we allow each person, we just start to see them as like we are all connected, but yet sovereign. So you are your own creator, I'm my own creator. And if that is true, then I have to respect you for what you choose to create. That's not always easy, but unconditional love is literally allowing you your story. Now, obviously, if your story is over my story and over my boundary, that's a whole nother discussion, because then I could defend myself or say, you've gone over my boundaries, right? That's effective communication. But what we're talking about here is when we see someone suffering and we feel, oh, I could help them. If I just do this, they won't suffer. I'll give them a bunch of money, or I'll go do this for them. But in the end, they have to realize that they create their reality in order for them to make the really big changes. And so when we just intervene or interfere, then they can't, right? And that's why I always kind of compare it to source, because when we're completely connected in a good way to source, it's not like source comes down and says, excuse me, Valerie, you're really going in the wrong direction here. Can I help you out here? You have to ask, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't even know if that asking, I remember asking that question many times when I was going through, as a child, I went through the experience of childhood abuse. And I remember asking that question all the time. Do you care if there was a God, something out there? Do you care about this? Why you're not doing anything about this injustice? And it was just, I just heard silence, back, and there was no answer.
But we were in a much darker world. It was much harder then to get information. You could, but if you were in a really, really dark place, it was very hard, very hard. But that doesn't mean it wasn't possible, because I'm sure Source heard you, but there was something that your higher self was going to experience and help others with. So there was a higher mission to this story. I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah, I felt that way. After when I understood the whole, how it worked. But at that time, I remember that clearly and not getting the answer. And then I stopped asking that question, throughout life, the suffering. I stopped asking, do you care? Consciousness, God, or whatever it is. Because I realized something, that I was not asking that question when I was happy. It's in moments of pleasure, of joy. Why was not I should be asking the same question. Do you care that I'm happy, that I'm experiencing this amazing moment? So that question was not there. So at some point, I just stopped asking the question, because that was not really the right question in a way, because I realized that I was here to experience whatever it is presented, whatever I couldn't really, for some reason, I couldn't do anything about it. But then it's an interesting point I see. Not just you, but a lot of people that I come across, that they speak about this choice that we do have. There's something that we can do about, let's say, our destiny or karma. I still don't know about that, Kathleen. I see myself in this reality, and I see how much is happening here. The only thing I can do is to be present, here, to be here now with whatever's in front of me, whatever's presented. There's nothing else really.
No, exactly.
And be at peace with that.
Yeah. So if we can accept what's coming at us, it's not what happens to us, it's how we handle it. So there have been many amazing stories of people having perpetrators and not feeling the victim, and realizing already that life is happening for them. And that, see, the thing is, once we put ourselves and take the victim role, then we are in the duality, and it's very hard to get out. So when you ask the question, do you care for me? It's assuming the thought is, I'm a victim and I'm suffering. Don't you see that? Whereas if you could just have accepted, this is happening, can I just not react and only be? As much as that is difficult, you were too young. But many people who have given us examples in very trying, turbulent situations just showed up in love, like really love, and not adversity or against. And so, and then the power of that changed the perpetrator immediately. So it was, yeah, I hear stories like that. I mean, we can't go into all of them, but I have
Right.
heard them my whole life. Very powerful stories. Yeah.
Yes, I can imagine. And you talked in the book about that too. How you talk about miracles. Yeah, you have witnessed a lot of miracles happen from that understanding, right? Going deeper into it, of the reality of being, how complex it is, and it is complex. But you're right. At some point, the question ends, and then it's if there is a question now, it's always truth. Now, what am I here to see? There's another question I ask. I always ask for truth and peace, of course, being at peace no matter what happens. And that's it's just to be seen, isn't it? We can't really kind of predict how we will respond to certain things. And I also ask for, peace in that sense, for this, in the sense of non-violence and in a non-judgmental way. I think non-violence kind of covers it all, doesn't it?
Yeah. And really, we would, if we could get into the complete acceptance and non-judgment, we could discern what's good for us because we are a creator. So we can make better choices, but we don't have to get stuck in a story then. So
Yes.
really now we're all realizing it's like an awakening. So people are like, oh, I'm not the story. Wait a minute, I don't have to stay in this. I can change the situation. But years ago, it was too heavy, the energy. We are really in a new time. So I think if any, for all of you listening, please love yourself where you're at because it's a process and you're an amazing soul who dared to come to earth. I say it, like you said, you're all heroes. Where I think when I awakened, I was going around like with this amazing, like my heart was just expanding for all humanity. I was just like, oh my gosh, we are truly incredible.
Yes. Your book is so extensive, though. I love looking at the illustrations too. Tell your sister, Deborah. They're beautiful. They just kind of, I was just looking at, there's one of them that I was looking for, I think for 5 minutes probably. I was hypnotized by it. The one that opens up, there's, I think the flower of life reminded me, this flower, this pink flower coming out of the book. And it's just like, I just stay there forever. Like, beautiful though. What a beautiful artist she is too.
I'm going to.
So, yeah, so you talk about acceptance, joy, and humor. I think we're talking about a spiritual teacher who talked to you. She raised the question, what would happen if you just accept the situation as it is?
Yeah, that
You
was
see,
good.
that's an invitation to peace, isn't it? Inner peace, to peace itself. That stopped me too, that question. That's why I have here. I had to make a note out of it. So we're almost at the end, and I have so many other notes here. Let me see if I covered that. Oh, I have to say that I love the dedication too. Would you read that here, Kathleen? Do you have the book in
Yeah,
front of you? I
sure.
love the dedication.
Yeah, I dedicate this book to Source and humanity. I honor the resilient human spirit that has courageously navigated its way through the ages, playing out many stories of duality. With unwavering hearts, we all now step in to the uncharted realm of a new earth, co-creating our shared future destiny.
Yes. I interview so many people, but I have been collaborating with somebody who talks exactly about holistic living, and she's just really passionate about this. And the reason why she does the work, she's older now. I think Christine is probably around 75, but she's been doing this work exactly now because she came across the alarming statistics of young people taking their own lives. So that changed everything for her. She said, I have to do something about it. And she's like 75, almost 80. And she wrote this book. And it's amazing, amazing what she has being what she found, the darkness that you speak of, from the past, and how we have not learned yet. We are still living the let's say the residues of that past. It's still
Yes, I
here.
think that's important, Valerie, that like there have been in duality, there were also in the energetic level, there were dark entities and light entities. And the war was played out of the duality, or you wouldn't say war, but the duality, the opposition was
Yeah.
played out. So I myself, in my healing work, I have seen the darkness. I was doing healings on with energy on. I never could have imagined that this happened, but I was doing frequency work, and I literally put the light on, and the dark entity showed itself, and it had taken over the soul. So we think it's in the Bible, or we just read about it, but in reality, we have been living it. So that's why I say we're really heroic to have confronted the dark, right? So the shadow work now on earth is to clear up, to clean up these old traumas, these old experiences, and let the darkness go, and integrate, actually not deny it, embrace it, but integrate it. Once we're integrated, that whole creator matrix is united. It'll be vibrating so high, it won't need those dark stories anymore, and we will really be liberated from this experience we've had, and in a way now, because we're ready. It's really exciting, actually.
Yes. See, we need the integration. We need to kind of recognize the invisible world, right? Not everything can be seen with the eyes.
Exactly.
So that's such an important piece. So I love everything about what you're doing. I mean, I love your presence. I love everything. It just warms my heart. It opens the heart. That's what it is, and that says a lot. It's the transmission of truth. So thank you for playing this beautiful role in our
Oh,
shared reality at this time. Thank you.
thank you, Valerie. Also, I feel honored to be in your presence and the work you do for everyone to bring all this information to all of us. Thank you.
Yeah. Think we all kind of doing that again, seeing ourselves, right? That part of ourselves in one another.
Totally.
So the end, I do have a question for you. But
Sure.
before that, Kathleen, I know I asked you to read the dedication for me, but there's still any other passage in your book that you would like to read?
Okay. A tool that I use when teaching my students to connect to the universal field is the oven of grace. We all have this oven within us. It helps us to manifest intentionally and multidimensionally. Many of us know that when cooking a dish, we need to prepare the food and place it in an oven for a certain period of time in order for it to manifest its form.
Right.
We don't have to go into the oven to control it. In fact, if we open the door too soon, we may ruin the food. Our creative process works in much the same way. When we have an intention, we allow thought forms to gracefully drop into our oven. We trust the universe to cook our desire and manifest it in its own perfect time. Learning not to control it is the secret. Complete trust is necessary. If our desire fails to manifest while in our oven, it is not the right path for our highest good at that moment in time. The old familiar saying, be careful what you wish for, also applies to the oven of grace. Be conscious and aware of the intentions you place in your oven. In fact, be in love with what you put in your oven.
Yes. Gosh, yeah. I can't believe I didn't mention that. I just said, okay, we're almost at the end. But yes, that caught my attention immediately. Yes, I love the picture too. Yeah, yes, yes, yes. Because that kind of relates to that idea of surrender. One, I used to use the word trust and then kind of evolved into surrender. And
Yeah,
then
beautiful.
also the idea of blessing anything that you see that it's not in alignment or you don't feel comfortable with, in my case, injustice. So in kind of, the oven of grace, just put it in there.
Yeah, say Valerie every day. I will see more and more justice.
Yeah. Okay. So I should change. It's changing the story in a way, right?
I will see more and more, and I will create more and more justice.
Yes. Gosh, I have to, to change. See, it feels like it's not an easy thing to do, but it is, isn't it, Kathleen? I want to believe now. You see, it starts with the belief system. I want to believe that's easy when I see injustice to just kind of shift kind of the perspective and see something different.
And take it, Valerie, take it
Yeah.
to the next level that you shared, to know that you will see more justice.
Right. That's such a beautiful depiction of that idea, of that concept of transmutation, transformation, and integration, as you said.
Yeah, thank you.
So thank you. I want to mention your website again. Is awellnessrevolution.com. That will be on your podcast notes, clickable, so it's easy to get there. Besides your book, so we have the website where you offer certification for health and wellness coaches. So I'll have that there too. Is there anything else that you left unsaid, Kathleen? I'm wondering if there's something that's coming to mind or coming from the heart and wants to be here.
Yeah, I love that you just said the heart.
Yeah.
I would just like to end by saying that we have to all go more, I say go more to your heart and take your brain with you. So, don't forget your brain because it's important, but the heart is where our real knowing is. And so I encourage all of you to just put your hands on your heart and love yourselves completely. I think that's what I'd like to end with.
Yes, beautiful. Yes. Thank you so much again for your presence. And
You're
we'll talk
welcome.
soon. We'll be in touch.
Thank
Bye
you,
for now.
Valerie.